All right, everyone. So, thank you for joining me. I want to get started because if there's something I like about live streams is being able to finish them on time or even before time. And for that, we're going to get started. It also depends on how many questions you're going to have, but you get my drift. Thank you for everyone who joins me live. I always love this crowd. It makes me feel better than just recording something in advance and sending it out into the sphere atmosphere. I'd rather have people live who can ask questions, etc. So I appreciate that. If you don't know who I am, nice to meet you. I'm Aviv Ben-Yosef. I'm a tech executive, CTO slash CTO coach and consultant. I work with startups worldwide, and specifically what I decided to use as my very first live stream of the year. If you don't know, I do these from time to time about something that I thought could be a tremendous help for so many teams. Essentially, every company I work with, I can see getting so much out of the things we're going to be talking about today. And I thought, well, might as well talk to it about it to you guys. I have also released a short ebook about my very basic impact coaching framework to get started with coaching for impact in your organization and seeing everyone in the org starting to develop. You should have gotten it by email when you signed up. If you didn't get the ebook, let me know and I'll just send it to you. You've got my email. But this is always part of me thinking, yeah, coaching is, on the one hand, so basic, but on the other hand, it has so much potential for so many companies. So many of you I know never got real coaching. So you don't even know what it's supposed to look like. You don't know if you're doing it well. And the impact coaching framework is very concise and intended to get started. We're not talking there about, the very sort of complicated situations and people having personality issues, etc. We're talking about the basics of coaching. I have people on my team. I want to help them improve. That's what this is about today. Now, I'm reminding you at the end, I'm gonna show you my new offer. It's the impact coaching where I can help you implement this. There are a bunch of varieties there, and also because you signed up, no one else, like not even my dear newsletter readers, if they didn't bother signing up to be here or get the recording, they will not get the discount I'm offering you of 30%. You're gonna get the code at the end of this thing. And also you're going to get the recording afterwards. So you can, feel free to rewatch, send me some questions. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And I'd love to help you implement this either by working together, or even if you just have a follow-up questions, feel free if you didn't attend the live and couldn't ask me here. But also, of course, if you're here, shoot. I'm going to monitor the chat from time to time. And I'd love to get your questions. Now, why coaching is so important right now? This is actually, I started thinking about this and realized it's so important essentially for everyone. And there are two main types of startups I'm working with nowadays. One is the startups for whom it feels like, the COVID ride never ended. They're still growing like crazy. They're onboarding more and more people all the time. And when that's the case, coaching is essential because you have so many people coming in. If you don't know how to help those people grow and you don't know how to make the people you've got grow, the organization is going to outgrow them. When you're in such a fast-paced environment, you have to keep improving. So coaching is critical for them. However, what most of the companies I work with nowadays are seeing is very slow growth. Sometimes it's you're aiming to retain the same headcount for the next year or so. And when that's the case, coaching is like 5 times more critical, because how are you going? I'm guessing you did, like, let's say at this level was your performance in 2024. You'd like to be better in 2025, right? You'd like to see some sort of improvement. You want to raise the bar. How are you going to do that? How are you going to deliver more if you're not going to be hiring a bunch of people? The answer, of course, is let's make our people grow. Let's help them so they become better at what they do. The company can succeed more. You will actually be managing a better team. Win, win, win. Everyone's happier. If you're following me, I keep saying life is just too short to lead an average or a mediocre team. We want to lead amazing teams, but those teams, very rarely just spontaneously appear. You have to grow them. You have to work hard for it. And to do that, you need to be coaching. And again, no matter your situation, coaching is going to be an invaluable tool in your tool set. And also, even if you're pretty good at it, the question is everyone else? Like, have you taught your managers how to do it, which is a big part of the ebook I sent you? How do we make this something that's happening across the organization? We're going to cover that as well in the time we have here today. Okay. And now this is a story, like a real story I heard from a SaaS I'm helping, from the CEO a few weeks ago. We started working together. I'm coaching several of their senior leadership people, and we're in a process of helping the entire engineering management organization scale up when it comes to their coaching and when it comes to how they are acting as managers. Within 6 weeks, the CEO told me that he is seeing a dramatic improvement in what he calls the maturity of the engineering management team, their seniority. I always say that seniority is not about, wall clock time. It's not about I'm going to have to wait now a year for my engineering managers to become better, to gain a year of experience. You can accelerate so many things with the right attitude, with the right coaching. And, I just saw it happen again, and I'm sure it can happen to you if you set your mind to it. Some people can benefit from some help, of course, but you can do it by your own. And I think what I sent you in the ebook and what you're going to cover today should give you a very good foundation and set you up for success in doing so. Now, let's quickly recap the impact coaching framework that you got the ebook of. It's a very basic concept that I started doing with my clients a few years ago, and I just saw how for so many it clicks. It makes this shift from coaching being something, vague and amorphous to something that you actually grasp, something you can start doing and teach your people. So impact coaching is essentially about, we have people in the company. I don't know if you want to share in the chat, you can, but I don't know how many of you actually set improvement goals with your people. That's not once a year, like the yearly review, performance reviews, whatever. I feel like those are absurdly too slow, because having one thing to improve at once a year, it's like, I'm assuming you're not releasing software once a year, right? Why do we accept that slow rate for ourselves? I would never go for that. None of the people I know who are top performers would go for that. We want to work much faster. Impact coaching is about having people work in these self-improvement iterations of 2 months, 3 months, maybe 4 if you really have to. I recommend starting with 3, so it aligns with the quarters. And every quarter, you have each person in your team choose a goal and work towards it. Working towards it means 2 things. They need to start working towards it. They need to do some active work to get there. And you, or whoever is their manager, should be working and coaching them to improve, providing them the feedback, finding the opportunities. Maybe, and I don't want to get into like the dictionary definitions of coaching and mentoring, etc. But you seeing someone, for example, who realizes their self-improvement goal for the quarter is, I really ought to become better when it comes to quality, when it comes to how I unit test, when it comes to front end, when it comes to talking to product, whatever it is. Some of those you might be not just a good coach for, but also a good mentor for. You're an expert at the thing, you can help the person, but for others, you are not. And it's perfectly fine to find a mentor, a senior engineer in the team, to help mentor that person in front end for the next quarter. So as our coachee gets some tasks in front end, which they're not really good at or experienced at, our mentor will be involved, and you will do the coaching of giving them the feedback, ensuring that they're doing the things when it matters, that they're working hard even when it's appearing to be maybe too much, or they feel like they're slowing the team down, or maybe they are slowing the team down too much. Your coaching role there is to ensure that the growth happens in a sensible rate, ensure that it's not troublesome, ensure that they are learning as fast as they can, and maybe realize along the way that some changes in the approach need to be done. This is the coaching part. And it might sound like a lot, but it's not that hard. Realize what the goals are, and you have like, I don't know, 2 or 3 pages of examples in the ebook, right? For goals that are tech related, management related, soft skills, like how do I communicate? Do I write things in a way that's clear? Some people want to do public speaking or writing blog posts or whatever. I believe a lot of those things are actually related to their performance in the company. So again, it's a win-win. Let's do all of those. Pick for every person what they want to do. Help them throughout the quarter or whatever period you chose. In the ebook, again, if you haven't checked it yet, there's the agenda that I recommend, like the schedule for the different meetings to hold it, the agenda, how to kick this off with your management team. And I released it like a month ago, already know a few VPs of engineering who are already implementing this, have had it kick off with their engineering managers, and are seeing the results so fast. Because for many organizations, it's as simple as that. Committing to it, scheduling the few meetings that are involved, and starting the process. What I want you to consider is how you can do it yourself. Like, what does it entail? I am a strong believer in not, the do as I say, not as I do. I'm not into that. I think that if you're talking to people about self-improvement and continuous growth, you need to be doing the same. Sorry, I just gave the camera a nudge. I think you need to be doing the same. You also have to keep improving because, first of all, I think that's the right thing for you regardless, even if your team is not improving. But also because I think that's how we as leaders show our team what is real growth, and that we are not, demanding of them things that we do not actually do. Now, how do you do that? If you have a coach like me, that's easier. But even if not, and this is something that I keep telling people, years ago, when I didn't have any budgets, before I started working with my own coaches for the years, etc., I decided that I can do things on my own. Now you can, I don't know, talk to ChatGPT or Claude, and maybe it's not as lonely as I was. But I actually set out this. I always have stacks of notebooks in front of me, and I write down what I want to focus on, and I have a daily reminder and how am I going to work on it today, if at all. And over a week, I do a weekly review, and I think about it, and over a month. And then when I come to the deadline, which I always have marked either in my task list with a due date or in my calendar, so it's not just something I forget about. I review the goal, I review how much progress I've made, and I decide about the new thing. Just like you need to be doing with your people, you owe it to yourself to do it for yourself. And once you start doing that, you'll be doing it even better with your team. So if there's one thing I can ask of you, if you're not already doing it, decide on this one thing you want to do and get to moving on that. I have actually quite a few shorter YouTube videos about installing coaching in your organization, how you can work on yourself by yourself. So if you're interested, just Google my name, you're going to find a YouTube channel and you can look at it there. And if you have any questions about it, let me know. This is one of the topics I enjoy talking about the most. So if you have any interesting topics, interesting questions, maybe I can turn those into videos as well. Always let me know. Always feel free to send me an email, even if I might take a week to reply. Next, the impact coaching framework, not just, the installation of it is not just critical to get going. There are quite a few benefits that are related to, if you remember the title of the session, right? Tough conversations, courageous feedback. If you install the impact coaching framework, you're going to see that the rest of the things become easier. Why? Impact coaching framework is easy because you come to your people and you tell them, I want to invest in you. I want to help you grow. So, come up with ideas. Let me know what you want to focus on. What skills do you want to improve? And I'm going to be there for you and I'm going to help you. I don't know about you. I find it hard to believe that a lot of people are going to say, no, I don't want to do that, right? That's who wouldn't like a manager that's so invested and wants to help you grow, right? Once you have that, you're already partnering. You already have this space when you can start working with people right off the bat. And that's what I'm seeing, virtually with every company we've implemented this. We see the company gain momentum immediately. Some people, just like that, start operating so much better just because they were just thirsty to get this attention, get this focus, and get some feedback. And once you do that, boom, some people will just improve just like that, just because you look at them. I don't know if it's the Hawthorne effect or something like that, but that's magical. And when that happens, already, just because you had a few meetings, you're going to see the benefits and you're already well off. Once you start gaining that momentum, what we want to see even more is you will, I think, immediately be at like the top 10% of the companies I've seen, because so many of them don't do coaching well. And then once you have this going on, you will see that you have all of a sudden created a space to talk about improvement and talk up and give feedback, right? And it started with this easier thing, because who doesn't want to get some feedback about a skill I care about? But I used to call it creating a platform. It's so scary for so many leaders to start providing feedback, especially if you didn't really do it before, because I can see the dread. You're thinking about that first meeting. I'm gonna go there and what? I'm gonna tell them that I'm not pleased with how they're operating, or maybe I'll give them feedback about something, and I know that because I never gave them any negative feedback, they're gonna feel, oh my god, this is so bad. Maybe I'm gonna get fired or something like that. When you're just saying, no, I don't want to help you. I just want to help you. Nothing is that bad. And just because of that fear, you're not talking. But once you started with impact coaching, you're already talking to them like once a week, once every 2 weeks about their growth, about their performance, giving them feedback. I hope that you're giving them a lot of positive feedback about the good progress. You're creating this space and you're creating this expectation to talk about performance, to talk about how they're growing. And once you do that, the cowardly leadership that I'm seeing all over the place, where people don't talk about what's happening, it can be handled so much more easily because you already have that space. You might as well use it. So first of all, I want to give you a bit of a background about this cowardly leadership issue that I'm seeing all over the place. Impact coaching, yeah, it tackles the problem of not having a space for it, of you feel like you're going to be providing people with feedback out of the blue. But even more, once you start doing impact coaching and you're working on the thing that's easy for them, you're working on your own muscle of providing feedback. And you start with the easier feedback and you start with positive feedback and you're going to get the ball rolling. And once you have that meeting every week, you're going to have to say something, right? So get used to just talking to them about the performance and moving forward. And then the cowardly leadership, and I'm sorry if you feel offended by the title, but the cowardly leadership can be addressed because you're already talking to them. You're already there. So things are a lot easier. I want to give you like a quick story of something that this is a real story, and yet it's like a story I've seen repeatedly. So if you feel like this is about you, it's probably not about you specifically, but it's something that I've seen so many times. And again, just recently, people tell me, like I talk to a CTO, I talk to a VP of engineering, and they tell me, yeah, I've got this senior engineer, or I've got this engineering manager, and that person has been underperforming for a year now. People actually tell me something like that. Yeah, for a year. I've known this is not good. And I say, okay, a year is a lot of time. What did you do in the meantime? And the answer is, of course, nothing, right? They're sending their feedback to DevNull. And like, okay, so were you just expecting them to spontaneously improve without getting any feedback? Like all of a sudden they're going to get an upgrade and realize, oh, now I'm a better manager without knowing I should have been a better manager? That's not how it works. And the cowardly management, what it actually does is we postpone handling the issues more and more and more till usually what happens is we get to the point of no return. You get to the point where you can no longer allow that person who's an underperforming remain in the company. Usually they have to be let go. Or sometimes I've seen companies handle this so bad, they had to get to the point where they had to lay off like teams that were underperforming, not having ever given them feedback because they did so for so long that there came a point where the CEO or the board or something just said, okay, this is not going well. We're going to have to cut our costs here. And they, fire an entire team that never got feedback about the fact that they were underperforming, that they were not doing things well. You don't want to be there. You don't want to be the boss that blindsided someone. I promise you that. It's bad to have to let go someone. It's like 3 times worse when you never gave them the feedback. So you don't want to be there. It's as hard as it is to give the harsh feedback, it's a lot harder to do the firing. So let's try and fix that. And if you're thinking about courageous feedback, like let's turn the thing around and not be cowardly, there are a few things there that I always tell my clients about why we ought to provide this courageous feedback to our people. Some people call this, radical candor or whatever. By the way, this is not about being a douche. You don't need to tell someone they're stupid, but you do need to tell someone when you disagree, when you think they made a mistake, when you want them to explain something because it makes no sense to you, etc. Courageous feedback. First of all, I want you to be egoistic. Think about yourself. Yeah, providing the feedback is hard for the next, 2-3 minutes as you're talking about it. Maybe for the next couple of hours after you do it, if the person maybe took it bad, was offended, etc. But not providing the feedback means that you're dragging this load all the time. Every time there's an issue with that person, you're like, yeah, I know they're underperforming. Yeah, I know. And you keep it to yourself. When others tell you things are not working out, when you see that their team is going to get a big feature and like, oh, yeah, that's going to be a tough quarter, you're going to be dragging that for so long. So I want you to be egoistic and say, no, I'm not going to be dragging that feedback with me. I'm going to give it to them. Second, be altruistic. Giving that feedback helps the rest of the team because the rest of the team deserves working with people who are really good. And to have that, we have to tell people who are not doing as good that they're not and help them grow. So you're providing this feedback to John because you want to help the entire team around John. Be altruistic. Think about them. Even if it's hard for you, think about the rest of your team. Think about your responsibility as a leader in the company. Whether you're a co-founder or not, what about the company? The company is, investing in this person. It's investing, especially if it's a manager, that's someone that has so much influence. But even if not, I always say, especially if you're not growing like crazy, every position is critical. Every position ought to be used well. So if you let someone who's not performing well stay like that, you're doing a disservice to the company. You're not doing your role. So again, be responsible. Think about what you're doing for the company. And lastly, be a real leader. Be the person that underperforming employee will remember for the rest of their careers because they'll be, yeah, that conversation with Aviv was a shocker, but he really made me realize I was not doing that well. He made me realize I really had to step up. He made me realize that I can do better, or that I got, into a comfort zone and I stopped pushing. And those things can really save someone's career. I've seen it repeatedly. And some people, they just need that little nudge and boom, like off they go. I'm going to give you like almost the exact date, but I'm afraid it's going to blow the cover on who that was. Within the last quarter, I worked with a team lead who didn't get the feedback for over a year. And the second he got the feedback, The second he got a new manager who just gave him the feedback point blank, that person within weeks became one of the best managers in the company. It's like a complete 180. And the manager who gave him the feedback didn't even have to work that hard. It's not as if that person even needed so much coaching to improve. He just needed the feedback. He needed to hear how he was doing to realize that he ought to be doing some things differently. That's it. And think about the year he wasted. And this is a happy end story of sorts, because at least the person got the good result in the end. He improved. Think about what would have happened had they waited for a bit more. He would have lost his job and perhaps not even realizing what he was doing bad. So be a real leader and think about your employee. Give him the chance, give them the opportunity to improve and to grow, give them the feedback so they can try. So if it's not working out, at least they can learn for the next role, instead of saying, oh, I don't know what that was about, and just having the same experience another 1, 2, or 3 times before realizing what's going on. Do it for them. If you fear providing feedback because of all sorts of different reasons around, that's a different issue. I just told you like 4 very good reasons why you ought to be providing good feedback, courageous feedback. Now the question is, why don't you, even after hearing this? If any of you want to share something, let me know. I'm also going to be checking my email later, because I know some of you prefer emailing me and not doing it here publicly in the chat. But here are like a few real things that I've seen. A VP of engineering told me, yeah, I need to provide that person feedback, but I'm afraid he's going to get angry. And if he leaves, I have like no boss factor about what he's doing. If he leaves, we're in trouble. So I can't give him any feedback. And I'm like, okay, so you have a critical person underperforming for months, and you're going to continue doing it like that? Like, what are you hoping to see? That things will explode in that critical point and then you're going to have to manage it? Why not be proactive? And another reason was another example is when people create bad teams or make bad changes to the organization because they feel like, oh, how can I tell, Dave, that he is not a good manager? Yeah, I promoted him to be an engineering manager. I see that he's not doing very well. But I don't want, how will his ego take it if I tell him I don't think it's working out? And I'm like, okay, how will the rest of the team take it if you just let him stay like that? Give him the feedback. So maybe he improves as an engineering manager. And if after you gave him a proper chance, things are still not working out, you have to do what's right for everyone. Do you think that it's good for Dave to have that title and like have all of these people reporting to him, knowing he's underperforming, and then starting to create that name for him? So eventually when he wants to switch jobs, he won't get any recommendation. All the reference checks will say, yeah, he's not real good at what he's doing, and he's going to be surprised. No, you don't want to do that. You want to create an organization that's so open that people can talk about their issues, about how they're improving, how they're growing, and get better. Okay, I hope I'm resonating with you. This is what courageous feedback really is about. Talking to people and doing it from the point of view of all of the different factors we had here. Your point of view. Think about yourself. The team's point of view. The business's point of view. And of course, the employee's point of view. Courageous feedback, even if it's not easy. This is, I think, a simple concept. Tell people what they're doing wrong. Just like when we're developing software, we want to get in front of people to get feedback and improve, right? We're iterating. You need to do the same with people. And I think that's, as a concept, it's simple, right? You grasp it, but it's not easy. I know. Telling someone in their face they're not doing a good job, or that you think they're not doing a good job, is never easy. It just means you're human. It means you're not a psychopath. Okay, sociopath. But it also means that you have to do it, because otherwise those people are going to be in a vacuum and everyone's going to be worse off down the line. You don't want to create that sort of an organization. And just like with working out, just like with, I don't know, taking your role. I'm guessing when you started the role, it wasn't easy, right? Think about what is better. Would you prefer have a bit of pain now or a lot of pain later? I usually choose, a bit of pain now. I choose to treat things before they become a huge mess, because I don't know. I think that's the thing that makes sense, and also I think that's our role in leadership positions. Now, let's talk about a bit about tough conversations before we wrap this thing up. A tough conversation is when you have to provide someone with feedback that you know is not going to be easy for them to hear. And I want you to think about how you're going to do it. And mostly, the most important thing in those conversations is the sort of mindset you enter the conversation. Now, for example, I sometimes see people saying, yeah, I need to provide them with feedback. You put people on a PIP, right? A performance improvement plan. But I always ask, are you doing this to cover your behinds with legal, or are you putting them on a PIP because you genuinely believe they can improve? Like, is the PIP just your way to start them on their way out, or is it you giving them a shot? And you need to be honest with yourself. Is there anything they can do to actually warrant staying? Or in your mind, are they past the point of no return? Because that really changes everything. So think, is this still fixable? If it's fixable, you need to think about what you can do to help them fix it. Don't just, throw everything at them. I think when you give people feedback, you need to define the issue. You need to define the impact that it's having. Like, don't say, I think you're not good enough at what you're doing, but say, I see that you're not communicating enough with your product peers, and that results in a lot of overhead, a lot of issues that are discovered only too late. Talk about the impact of the things when you give them feedback, and then you can think together about how they can start improving there. With some people, you can just ask them, what do you think you can do to improve that? Do you understand what I'm saying? And then how can you start improving it? With others, maybe you need to be a bit more helpful and provide them with a few ideas of what they can do in the next week or two to start improving. Tell them how you are going to be by their side. And, this also shows what coaching is about. It's not, you versus them. This is us together working to improve. And when you show them that you're willing to pull up your sleeves and be in there and help them, they will get the feedback better. Not everyone, but most of the times that's what's going to happen. And I want you to know right now that leaps are possible. I told you about the team lead. I've seen these repeatedly. Some people need more coaching, some people need less, but a lot of the times, if you ask yourself and you genuinely believe that the person can improve, you're not like thinking, yeah, that's a lost cause, then a leap is possible if you give them the right tools and you give them the right feedback. And I want you to put the onus on them to improve, especially if you have a few people who need to improve. You cannot feel responsible for everything. Yeah, it takes two to tango. You also have a part here, but you don't need to feel like you need to do everything. Give them, decide with them about what they're going to be doing. Give them your support as a coach. But also, if they're not willing to do what it takes, if they're not willing to improve enough, it's their issue, right? It's not your problem. So keep that in mind. And lastly, I want you to remember that most times people really want to improve. They really want to get better at what they're doing. People, most people care about their jobs, even if, I don't know, they're a bit burnt out. They've been in this industry for too long. They still care. Like, good people care. And that's what you want to have in your team. That's how we create organizations that we feel good about leading. Okay. And once you start thinking about how you frame the tough conversations, you enter the conversation. You keep in mind that you're there to help the other person. You define the feedback and the impact that it's having and what improvements you'd like to see. Like, how would you tell yourself that we're seeing an improvement? And then lastly, give them the opportunity to try and think about what they can do to improve. You can help them if they're coming up short. define the action items, what they're going to be doing, when you're going to circle back, how long you think it should take to see an improvement, and rinse and repeat till you see enough improvement or not. Maybe you can move to the next thing. Maybe you realize this is still not cutting it, etc. You do that, and once you do it enough, and if you have the impact coaching framework that just gives you such an amazing excuse to talk to everyone about their performance and give people feedback, things become easier. And when you do it, close enough, it's not once a year and I have to tell you, oh my God, you've been terrible for the past 8 months. But it's, hey, the past 2 weeks, I've been noticing blah. Let's talk about that. The feedback itself, it just tends to be smaller. So, it's, even if it's painful, it's like a small poke. It's not getting slapped in the face. And that's what getting blindsided about a year's worth of feedback is. And if you give them regular feedback, it's so different. Just like, again, releasing things in iterations, right? That's the approach we want to have. Okay, I hope this makes sense. And to wrap this thing up, I have a few takeaways for you in all of this. And of course, if you have questions, now's the time. I want you to decide on a coaching goal or a couple for yourself for the next 2 to 3 months, and how you're going to track these as the time is moving. Put it on your calendar so you remember to review these as you're progressing and to have a deadline in mind. Then I want you to think about how you're going to start teaching the managers in your organization to do this. And lastly, right now, write down the 1 or 2 areas, the people that are where you've been a bit cowardly. You've been shying away from giving them the right feedback. And you don't need to come up with what exactly you're going to say right now, but I want you to be clear. And I know that essentially everyone I ask has like 1 or 2 areas where they know, yeah, I need to tackle that. So think about those. I'm guessing you already have them in your mind, and I want you to write them down so you remember to get into these. Maybe your coaching goal, and this is something I've done with people, maybe your coaching goal for the next couple of months is to tackle those areas where you need to give people feedback. That's usually a very good place to start from. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So, thank you for joining me. As I mentioned, you're going to get in the recording, in the email, the recording, and also links to my impact coaching. There are a few levels there. One is just helping you bootstrap. We decide on these goals for yourself, and I give you some support along the way to help you get started. The other is to help you teach your team how to do this. I will review how you give feedback to people, that sort of stuff. And the third one is like full-blown concierge coaching for a quarter, where we're going to be working on your coaching. This is like a subset of my regular coaching where we can talk about everything in the world to make it a lot more approachable for people. We're just going to focus for a quarter on how you coach and how you become a better coach. Well, also, I'm going to be coaching you to become better. For all of those, because you're here or because you signed up, and I really value that, you're going to get a coupon code for 30% off. If you want to chat, ask me questions, you can just reply to that email and we can talk about this. Thank you for joining me. Either way, I really hope you're going to implement something of what we talked about today to see coaching become something of a priority for you in 2025. I hope you're going to see improvement, and I hope that by the end of the year, you're going to see that you have raise the bar, that your organization has raised the bar. And if you want to give it a push, you've got my email. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. And I hope to hear from you in the emails. Ciao.